Hi everyone. I'm here with the lovely Gregoria Wood from GW Solicitors. Gregoria based in Victoria and has helped my clients securing property in Victoria. So the reason that I'm doing this blog and this very educational video is because each state will have different rules. So it's important for you to know what rules applicable in Victoria when you purchase a property in Victoria. Gregoria has more than 20 years experience in the legal industry. So in this video, the aim is to we'll go through the process of buying property in Victoria, and I'm going to ask Gregoria some questions. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Liz. Thank you for having me.
No worries. So, Gregoria, when a client wants to buy a property in Victoria, why would why would they need to get the contract review by you? What do you check in the contract?
Well, look, basically, it's to know where they stand.
Yeah.
So we will review the contract based on what they want to do with the property. So if they've got plans to live in the property, we'll look at that differently, as if than what we would if they wanted it just as an investment, or if they want to knock down, rebuild, and develop the land. Again, we'll be looking out for different things in the contract.
Yeah.
We identify any restrictions that are on title, which either allow you to do something with the property
Mm.
or disallow you to do something,
Mm.
um, which will restrict what you can do. Again, what you can do with the land, what you can and can't do, and that always makes a difference to the purchasers as well and their intentions.
Yeah.
We can consider any risks that are in the contract, any tax implications, stamp duty, penalty interest, and some other hidden fees that sometimes come up as well.
Okay. Wow. There's so many things to check. In terms of council check in New South Wales, I'll normally say to my client, oh, call the local council and find out any future developments. Is that something that people in Victoria have to do as well if they want to know?
No, that's all generally contained in the contract and in the
Okay.
certificates that are in there as well.
Yeah, okay. And obviously, if someone said to you, I want to get the person building or strata inspection, you can recommend people that you normally use.
Absolutely. We've got a network of people that we've worked with previously,
Yeah,
who know what we're looking for as well and what they need to identify in those reports.
okay. When will be the best time to contact you? Because obviously people are excited doing house hunting. Should they contact you before they found something to alert you or when they sort of close to agreeing to the price?
It's best practice to do it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you can put somebody on notice, like if with my clients, they put me on notice that I'm looking for a property,
Yeah.
and I will need you to review the contract once I find something I'm interested in. That also allows me to plan around that to make sure that we meet all the deadlines and you have time to consider all the information that I'm going to provide you as well.
Yeah.
And you're not making a rush decision, and you have time to take it all in,
Yeah.
ask any further questions if something still doesn't make sense,
Mm.
and then we go from there. So it's best to get in as early as possible.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So I know in Queensland, when they purchase a property, they can put finance clause, pest and building. In New South Wales, you don't have that. So either, you sign with a cooling off, and then if you don't proceed, you lose your deposits. How does it work in Victoria?
In terms of conditions,
Yes.
yeah,
What
so we'll do
conditions?
finance first. So you can definitely put in a finance clause.
Mm.
It's generally 2 weeks that they allow for finance to be formally approved.
Yeah,
Always good to have a pre-approval in place.
yeah,
Um, but again, that's your area, and I've seen with your clients, everything's just gone really smoothly from a financial point of view.
yeah.
Building and pest again is the default is 2 weeks unless it's specified in the contract that it's
Mm.
a shorter amount. Sometimes it's 7 days,
Mm.
sometimes it's more than that.
Mm.
Again, you can definitely put those in. And it's always a good idea to do that so you know exactly what you're purchasing. There are no
Okay.
nasty surprises down the line either.
Yeah. With the deposit, when a client agree on a price and they want to sign the contract, um, sorry, I'm just referring to New South Wales because that's how my brain works so that I can compare. In here we put 0.25% of the purchase price as a deposit, and we got the cooling off. And at the end of the cooling off, if we don't proceed, we lose the 0.25. If we proceed, we have to give the rest, the 5 to 10% deposit. So in Victoria, when they signed a contract and we put the finance clause and the the building inspection clause, how much deposit will the client need to put and how much they lose out if the finance is not satisfactory or the pest and building is not satisfactory?
So when you sign the contract, sometimes we don't know what the amount is going to be of the sale.
Okay.
So it's expected that you put $1,000 down immediately to secure that. And
Okay.
then you need to pay the rest of the 10%, the
Yeah.
balance of the 10% deposit by an allocated date. It's usually between 3 and 7 days in
Okay.
Victoria.
Okay.
Um, if you terminate the contract, even within the cooling off period, there are penalties that apply and you lose the 0.2%.
Oh, point two.
Or 100, yes, 0.2 or the $100 maximum.
Okay. And if, say, the pest and building is not satisfactory,
Yep.
will they get the money back?
In that scenario, yes, you will get the money back.
Okay.
However, again, there's rules around that on what those reports need to identify to
Yeah.
entitle you to terminate the
Yeah.
contract.
So it has to be reviewed. It's not just easy saying, the building and pest inspection is not great. Can I get my money back? It has to be reviewed and agreed
Exactly.
upon. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, can you explain to me about the unconditional versus conditional contracts?
Yeah. So you've got your conditional contract, which is where you put in clauses subject to finance, building and pest, as we discussed.
Yep.
And once those are satisfied, then the contract becomes unconditional, which basically means the parties are locked in and we proceed to settlement. There's very little that can go wrong at that point to allow you to terminate a contract.
Yeah.
So the exception to that is if you purchase at auction, there is no
Mm.
cooling off period.
Mm.
It's unconditional immediately upon signing. So you're locked in. You cannot put conditions on that if you purchase.
So this never happened to us because we never settle late. But it's always something that I'm just interested to know. So for example, again, referring to New South Wales, the contract will have penalty is 10%, for example, and then normally you have 2 weeks grace period, and then you will get charge penalty for every single date that you late, which it never happened. But I just want to know, out of curiosity, in Victoria, what happened if we don't settle on time? How much roughly is the penalty, and how long can we delay settlement?
Look, it's hard to say because it's calculated as a percentage of the purchase price for the
Okay.
penalties. It's not a cheap exercise.
Mm.
So the penalties are quite hefty. It's whatever the current RBA cash rate is at that point in time,
Mm.
because that's changing
Mm.
constantly. It's the cash rate plus 2%,
Mm.
which is a penalty fee for not settling on time, and that's calculated daily. So for each day
Mm.
that you delay settlement,
Yeah.
you get charged penalty fees.
Mm.
But there's also other things to consider. And again, depending on the contract, there may be additional legal fees that you need to pay to the vendor
Mm.
if they've incurred other expenses such as interest on an existing mortgage, or if they've had to take out a bridging loan,
Mm.
things like accommodation if they've had to move out,
Mm.
storage fees, that can also be a liability for the purchaser.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, let's just don't settle late at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. So these days, everything is signed through DocuSign. So you can, I guess we have a few clients that obviously overseas. Can the contract of sale be signed via DocuSign? And how is the ID verification happen from your end?
Absolutely, it can be signed on DocuSign, which is just a sign of the times, I think, that you can buy property purely online. You don't actually have to meet anyone anymore.
Yeah.
And the verification process is actually online as well. So we
Okay.
don't need to do face-to-face meetings anymore.
Yeah.
Everything is electronic in Victoria.
Yeah. Things have changed so much since the COVID era, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've got one last final question. When a client purchases a house, for example, obviously we want have the house insured. When should the start date of the insurance be? Is it from the exchange date or from settlement date?
Look, the best practice that I advise my clients, it's
Yeah.
best practice to do it immediately.
Yeah.
Take out a policy.
Mm.
So in Victoria, the standard clause is that the property remains at the risk of the vendor until settlement.
Yes.
However, if something happens, the vendor's insurance doesn't
Yeah.
cover it or it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
cover all of the damage or the loss, then you're up for some again, it's a financial burden.
Yeah.
It's best to just get it done for a couple of extra $100. You've
For
got
peace of
that peace
mind.
of mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
it covers you unconditionally and you're done.
Yeah.
Also, I find that some lenders recently um, need proof of insurance
Yes.
prior to giving formal approval. So
Yeah.
again,
Okay. Mm.
it's two birds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great information. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you.
I've worked with Gregoria for a few number of clients, and I think it's super important to find someone that approachable, knowledgeable, and especially during the settlement time, you have to do lots of calculation on how much the funds has to be prepared for the settlement, has to be super accurate. And thank you so much, Gregoria, and I hope this video will give you an insight on how to purchase a property in Victoria. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks again.